We're talking about Origami Angel, the boys, Gami Gang today, because Somewhere City, in a very rare, quick upset to the rest of the albums that I'd been listening to for years prior. This thing I had only heard for the first time maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3. And other albums that are on my list I've been listening to for way longer than that. And somehow this shot up the ranks and became my number 2 favorite album of all time. And I'll tell you why. The listenability is super high. We've already talked about this album plenty of times. We've talked about it on the podcast, the second episode, actually, of this podcast. We talked about Origami Angel. We did our ranking video on David's channel of all of the Origami Angel albums. At the time. And yeah, and I feel like I've talked about this in my top 10 albums of all time video. So You did.
Because it was number 2.
Because it was number 2, yeah, that's right. So if anyone watched that video, you knew this was coming. But for anyone who hasn't watched that video or any of the other videos that we talked about, I'm going to tell you why this album is one of my favorites. First of all, the Gami Gang, are a couple of boys who love Pokemon. They watched Danny Phantom growing up. They got Happy Meals. They hang around playing Guitar Hero and Rock Band. And it's all the shit that David and I did growing up and still do. And
minus Danny Phantom. I never watched that show.
Minus Danny Phantom. We'll just say Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, because I feel like, a lot of kids our generation, those were the 2 things that we watched. And if you were a Disney Channel kid, congratulations. We're not talking about you today. Not only that, but it's just 2 guys, and the singer / guitar player loves throwing twiddly melodic guitar lines into their songs and really interesting melodies and chord progressions that are almost like jazzy. And
he is way better at guitar than he really deserves to be.
Yeah.
Like anyone else in this entire genre of music, man is running laps around everyone else.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Rylan, you got it, dude. I cannot tell you how. So I wanted to show David Origami Angel because on top of having really interesting and like jazzy chord progressions and melodies and catchy hooks in their songs, they also have insane drums and blast beats and drum fills that are so catchy that sometimes I'll catch myself singing drum fills when I'm washing the dishes or whatever. So I showed David and I said, hey, there's this band that feels like it took both of our musical sensibilities and smushed them together. And also they talk about Pokemon, and they have an EP called Gen 3, where all of the songs are named after Pokemon games from the 3rd generation of games, which is your favorite.
Yep.
And I remember you first listened to them and you're like, yeah, they're okay. And then we went to go see them live opening up for the Wonder Years. And I feel like that's when your opinion changed for the better, because you realized it's just 2 guys. And you're like, this dude's playing rhythm and lead guitar and singing at the same time.
Yeah. A modern day Geddy Lee right there.
Yeah. It really puts it into perspective just how talented these guys are. And we love how nerdy, we love talented nerds, because talented nerds are the best kind of nerds. Because they look so cool when they're up doing their thing. And it gives us other nerds hope that we can also be nerdy and really good and develop a fan base and all that. So let's talk about the album. And let's talk about specific tracks. Because honestly, I don't think there's a single miss on this track. I feel like I compare it to Wasting Light a lot, in that every single track is good. And there might be 1 or 2 that like aren't as good as the others, but if I'm listening to this whole album all the way through, I'm not going to skip them. So you open up with oh my god,
The Air Up Here.
No, that's the
Oh, it's Welcome To.
Yeah, Welcome To, and then Air Up Here is the closing track. But what's cool is they kind of loop. It's like a looping album. Then you got 24 Hour Drive Through, which is the first song that I ever heard from them, and it's definitely like the most if we call Origami Angel pop punk, I'd say 24 Hour Drive Through is like the most poppy song on the album. It's very hook heavy. The melody in the chorus is very catchy. And then you have the 1-2 punch of oh my god.
Oh, yeah. 666 Flags.
Yeah, 666 Flags and Dr. Hoomst, which, come on, man. I mean, they just hit really hard, and just like specifically there's a part in 666 Flags that gave you a bloody nose, right?
Oh yeah, because when we saw him in Detroit, I went really, really ham with headbanging, and I fucking hit my head right into some guy's head.
Yeah.
And you had to spend the rest of the show in the bathroom because it was bleeding.
Yeah. Luckily, everyone was okay. But no, 666 Flags.
Because it ends with the blasting.
Yeah.
Because I remember I showed this album to my band once when we were doing like these. We all showed each other an album of like whatever.
Yeah.
And I played this one. And then they had the same reaction I did. They were like, "Oh shit, there's blast."
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty awesome." And like I said, Dr. Hooms is my favorite song by them.
Yeah.
And the same way it ends with that crazy ass breakdown.
Yeah.
It just rips hard
And
ass.
when they play it live, they slow the breakdown even more. So it's fucking nasty, bro. When they play Dr. Hoomst live, which we've seen them 3 times now. Once as a headliner and 2 times as an opener / we saw them at Riot Fest the same night that we saw the Foo Fighters. And at Riot Fest, as they were setting up, I waved hi to Ryland and he waved back, which is probably one of the crowning achievements in my life. But yeah, and then you go further down the album, and you have Say Less and Escape Rope, which, well, I'll Say Less is one of those songs where it's like, okay, it's starting to slow down a little bit. But then you have Escape Rope into the title track, and believe it or not, I think the title track is like their most streamed song.
It's that or Drive Through, I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of the two.
One of them.
But Escape Rope and the title track, they bleed into one another, and it makes it really fun to listen to because it's one of those things where you don't even notice the transition. Yeah, but those are just very fun songs. Skeleton Key and Find Your Throne are both fine songs. I feel like Find Your Throne has a really cool moment at the very end where the band, all the instruments cut out, and then you hear Ryland singing, oh, you're a goddamn... Oh, fuck. I forgot what the line is. For my second favorite album, I'm really blanking on a lot of these fun facts, but yeah. And then the Air Up Here is, I don't consider this album a concept album, but the way that the album ends is in the second half of the Air Up Here, they start to sing melodies from every other song on the album, and it's just layered vocals over layered vocals, and it's so cool. And it's like, it's one of the reasons why I wholeheartedly believe that listening and like recording things as an album is so much cooler than just putting out a shit ton of singles and then mashing them together on an album. Because it's like, you can tell that there was a vision here, and there was a vision with this collection of songs, and they went into the studio writing and playing and recording, and it shows. And it's just, it makes it such a fun album to listen to top to bottom. I think it's like 40 minutes long.
I think it's
less than that.
Pretty sure it's like 35.
Yeah.
Like, it's around a half hour.
Yeah, so you can listen to it in an afternoon, which I highly suggest doing. Join us, Gami Gangers, and go see them at a show, because now they're playing shows. They're still headlining shows, and they're going on a bunch of tours, and they're touring with other people, but their tickets are still like $25, which is crazy. And I feel like, I genuinely believe that they're only going to get bigger and bigger. Right now, I think they have like 300,000 something listeners on Spotify, like a month. And I am so excited to see them on their come up and see them get bigger and bigger. And yeah, anyway, they just put out a new EP, or not a new
It
EP,
was just
a new single called Fruit Wine, which goes pretty hard and hopefully is an indication of a new album to come. So we'll see.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, if you want to hear us talk about this album more than we did today, just find one of the many videos that both or either of us have done about Origami Angel.
Yeah.